lost about 50 pounds, got really fit, felt like I was invincible. Maybe I'll give this running thing a try. And then on Father's Day, I broke my leg.
Welcome to Finish Lines and Milestones, a podcast for everyday runners. I'm your host, Allie Bretnacher, and if you run, you are a runner, and every runner has a story. Join me each week as I share these stories and we celebrate finish lines and milestones together. If you are looking to upgrade your smartwatch or wearables during this spring season of training for your next race, look no further than Amazfit. I personally use their Balance 2 smartwatch for all things running, but it also has replaced my Apple Watch, so I wear it pretty much 24/7, except I take it off when I sleep now because I also have the Helio ring to track that for me versus wearing my watch to sleep, which I was and works great as well. But let me tell you, this watch, the battery life is my most favorite thing about it. 21-day battery life. I just went on spring break, didn't even bother bringing my charger. I knew I wouldn't need it. So that's one thing I really love. The other thing is the price point. So the Balance 2 watch is $299 and the Helio ring is $150. So very, very competitively priced, but still has the functionality you need, want, expect from this type of technology. Of course, there are watches with more functionality and less than the one that I use, so you can find whatever watch works best for what you want to use it for. So I highly recommend going to amazfit.com, amazfit.com, and you can use code ALLYB, ALLYB, for 10% off of your order. Thank you, Amazfit, for supporting this podcast. And now before I get into this week's episode, I am fresh off of spring break where we went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and the weather was perfect, nice and warm. We even got a cloudy day where we spent a lot of time outside exploring. I got to run a couple of times, got to hike, and our girls who are, 5 and 9 really enjoyed it, want to go back already. So it was a great time to step away. I was proud of myself. I bricked my phone. If you don't know what a brick is, you should Google it, but it can basically turn your phone into a brick. In my case, I use it to stay off social media. And so I am on day, I think 5 now with not even looking at my social media, which has been really refreshing. Sometimes just need a complete break. Not even the temptation is there. Now that's an ad for Brick. Now heading into the Carmel Marathon, not this weekend, but next. And this weekend is the 10 miler for the Indy Mini. And so I'm excited to be running that downtown Indianapolis. And speaking of the Indy Mini, Lindsay Hine, who is the founder of Sandy Boy Productions, she and I are hosting an event the day before the Indy Mini. We just announced our first guest, who is Emma Grace Hurley, who we actually talk about briefly in this episode. So if you are interested in joining us for that event, whether you're local to Indy or you're coming in town for the race, check out the link in the show notes to grab your ticket. There are only 100 available. So hope to see you there. Keegan, this week's guest, will be there. So a couple other things I want to point out in this episode. If you want more of Brooks Run Collective, Hillary Burgess was also on this podcast previously. So go check out her episode. And then I also want to point out the fact that I have a bad cold in this, so I sound like I have a cold. Thankfully, we had technical issues in the middle and I got to blow my nose. But unfortunately, that meant that the second half, the video's kind of wonky on Keegan's side. So just be warned, but the audio works. Whether you're watching or listening, I know that you'll enjoy this episode with Keegan. Keegan is getting ready this weekend on Sunday. He's getting ready to run the Cherry Blossom 10 miler in Washington, D.C. Rob Perez, who was my 150th guest, who is DC running royalty, is also running the race. I wish I was going to be there. Bucket list for sure. So now this week I talked to Keegan Kok, who I met really through the internet at first. And then I got to meet Keegan in person at the Indy Monumental last year. And now he's coming back to Indy for the Indy Mini as well in May. So we talk all about Keegan's running journey, how he started way later in life and has really caught the bug, if you will. He's now a certified run coach, coaches his daughter's cross-country team. Keegan is from Chicago and helped found a run club there. He is part of Brooks Running Collective, like I just mentioned. He also creates amazing content on the internet that you should go check out as well. But I know you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Keegan. Hi, Keegan.
Hello. How are you, Allie?
Good. It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, so it's good to connect again.
It is. Yeah, you and I got to meet in real life last November.
We did. Oh, gee, November feels so long ago. But yes, we met in your home state, Indianapolis, when I was down there for Monumental. That was such a fun race. And the whole expo, all the events around it. I had a lot of on that weekend.
Yeah. And tell people about how you came to run that race with your team at Brooks.
Yeah, so I was part of the Brooks Running Collective, which is basically their ambassador to the team. And they actually have a 3-year camp on the team. And so I was coming to the end of my 3rd year. That race was also a Brooks sponsored race. So we had about, I would say 15 or so people like were running that race, some doing the half, some doing the full, which I did the half. And yeah, that was my last race, like as as a Brooks ambassador. So it's kind of like a little bit of a swan song.
Yeah, it was a
And
good one.
and I went out with a bang. I had fun. I went out with a bang. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was such a great weekend. So when you travel to a race with Brooks Running Collective, they have like an agenda and stuff for you too. They put together like a shakeout run and things like that, right?
Yeah. Not always, but this one just happened to be one that there were just more folks going, as we also had folks from the actual Brooks HQ who came with us as well. So this was a bigger to-do. So there was a shakeout, we had dinner together. I really felt like we were a team, like going to race, right? Started running late in life, so I didn't have the high school or like middle school cross-country track team travel type experience.
Yeah.
But this felt like the adult version of it. So that was really cool. Some of the smaller races that maybe we don't have as many folks going, then we sort of like just on our own, like get together and do either join the shakeout or definitely like dinner together and
That's so fun.
film some content, make some silly reels.
Of course. Yeah. How did you find out about BRC and how did you become a part of it?
Kind of fell into it, to be honest. So I joined about 3 years ago or 3.5 years ago at this time. It was coming at a time when I think I just started running. I was maybe running for about a year at that point. I was also coming at a time where like I was in between jobs. I had about like a 6-month period between being laid off from like a job. And I just said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to jump into the next thing right away. Let me just take a breather. It's been a lot, 5 years at a big startup company, right? And so it was right around that time that I was like, you know what? Running's fun. Running's been occupying my time, spending more time, just posting more of my running on Instagram. And then I just saw the application and didn't think too much about it. I was like, well, I have time, it's like, why not just put my name in the hat? And I was honestly a little surprised that I was picked and definitely had all the imposter syndrome. And I said yes, took the leap. And even the first year of being on the Brooks team, I was still, yes, you connect with a lot of ambassadors online and engage with them. You meet a lot of folks, but I was still a little unsure. But it wasn't until once in August of that first year when they got us all together at Santa Monica for like an ambassador retreat that I was like, oh yeah, these are my people. We just bonded quickly, and it's been a ride since then.
That's so cool. Yeah, I actually forgot to apply this year. I applied last year and I was rejected, and then this year I just totally spaced it because I had been considering it.
Yeah.
Just because seeing that group of people, yeah, you're like, that looks like my people. That looks like a ton of fun. It also seems like, yeah, you get the opportunities to travel to either meet all together for a Brooks thing or, out at races, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely quite an experience. Again, I've never done anything like that before. Maybe only had about like 1,000, maybe even less than 1,000 followers at that point. So this was all new to me, working with brands and brand deals and stuff like that. But they really took care of us. They really did a good job in like making sure we kind of got to know each other and engage with each other. And then the ambassador retreat was pretty much mostly paid for by them. All we had to do was like get ourselves there.
That's cool.
But then once we were there, we're like sort of, taking care of. So it was really nice. It was like adult summer camp, so to speak.
Great.
Adult running summer camp.
I'm so into the idea of that. Like how fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think there needs to be more groups like that. I mean, you see the other ambassador programs. I don't know if I've seen one that does it quite like Brooks does. So it just seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely just from the outside looking into like don't feel like the rest take the same approach that they do.
So after your 3 years, you roll off. Can you do it again at some point? Or is that you do 3 years and that's it?
I think you do 3 years and that's it. They used to not have a cap, and then you do have folks that have been there for like much longer
Yeah,
period of time.
I bet.
I think they want to like cycle people and, get some fresh perspectives. So I totally get it. But that being said, though, like the, friendships that I've made, whether it's with the brand or like with previous ambassadors, like still remains very strong. And I've ran races with them too, like outside of the Brooks team and stuff like that. So yeah, I think while the opportunities passed, I got a lot out of it and, no regrets.
Love it. So you started running,
Yeah.
like you said, later in life. So how did that happen?
So I started running at age 41, I want to say right around there. And I think maybe a classic late in life runner story. Was never really big into running. Might have done a couple of sprints in PE class, and that's about it. But I think what happened was right around, maybe even just before the pandemic, I was just realizing I was getting very sedentary, and before you knew it, started to put on a lot more weight. And for me, I think the pandemic was a little bit of a wake-up call. I'm like, well, okay, I have a little bit more time in my hands. Let's try to do something about it. Started with just at-home workouts, consumed a lot of YouTube, learned about nutrition, and didn't do anything crazy. Honestly, I just ate slightly smaller portion, and it was just mindful of what I was doing. And I lost a lot of weight. I lost about 50 pounds,
Awesome.
got really fit, and then felt like I was invincible. I'm like, oh, okay, like let's take on a new challenge. Always hated running. Maybe I'll give this running thing a try. Kind of had my mindset committed to it. This is probably like, June-ish, right? And then on Father's Day, I broke my leg.
What? Keegan, how did this
Yeah.
happen?
Again, feeling invincible, feeling really fit. I was playing with my kids at a park and had this sort of Ninja Warrior type setup.
No.
Kind of jumped wrong, landed wrong, and broke my left the smaller bone, fibula, I think.
Okay. Oh no.
So then I was like, oh, okay, well, that was pause on the running thing.
Yeah. Did you wear a cast for that? Like, what did you have to do to rehab that?
Yeah, fortunately, no surgery. They said, well, just let the bone heal on its own. So, I was like, okay. It was actually kind of fascinating to just see like how the bone just sort of repairs itself,
Bizarre.
But then came that winter when I was actually moving again. I was like, all right, let me give this running thing a try. Found a program like that for the strength and like running component. I was like, do it for 30 days and you'll run your first 5K. I'm like, no, like not possible. But I did it. I ran my first 5K, which was New Year's Eve that same year. They endorsed a 5K like that morning to kind of kick off the new year, and then had a lot of fun. Didn't think I could do it, but I did it. And then, caught the bug.
Yeah, you did.
Both my kids and my wife were there too. They're like, and I think my kids, when they were a little younger than back then, they also kind of caught the bug. They're like, wait, you get a medal for this? I'm like, I kind of want to do this, So that kind of started my running journey. And then they joined in a couple of races too. So it was a fun, thing for a little bit.
Absolutely. And you have 2 girls, right?
I have two girls.
And
yeah.
how old are they?
One's 13 and another is about 11 and a half. So about
Okay.
like 21 months apart.
So you're going to have 2 teenagers at the same time.
I know. I already have one. So
Right.
so far it's been okay.
That's
I
good.
don't know. We'll see what happens when I get 2.
I know. I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and then I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
And so I'm just
Right.
terrified of the teenage years. We'll see how they go, but
Yeah. You're getting there too. So
Yep. So that's so fun to be able to share the sport with them too. And so at what point did you graduate from that 5K that you did to then being like, okay, now I'm going to run a marathon or a half, or how did the progression work for you?
it escalated quickly. So that was, my first 5K was that New Year's Eve. And I want to say about 8 months after that, I actually was fortunate enough to get a bid for the Chicago Marathon. And part of me was like, well, I had no intention of running a marathon at that point. I was actually in the middle of training for a 10K.
Right. Oh my
So I was
gosh.
slowly progressing, But part of it was like, well, just like starting. It was around that time of starting to like get into meeting the running community and stuff like that. The first 6 months, 7 months of my running journey, it's really just me running on my own, going to races with my family. Didn't really know there was a Chicago running scene. But once I kind of got introduced and started learning more about run clubs and marathon, and I was like, oh, turns out this was a really hard bib to get. So maybe I should do it.
Yeah.
And,
Oh my gosh.
and so I did. I honestly it wasn't probably the best path, but I didn't go from zero necessarily.
Right.
I was like 10K trained, right? And also with a little bit of delusion and naivety,
Sure.
I finished. I finished
Yeah.
and I had a blast.
Wow.
And then I told myself like, okay, I think we do it again next year.
Wow.
And I did.
Wow. How did you get that Chicago bib, by the way? Was it through work or how did that happen?
Actually, no, I have to give a lot of credit to the first run group that brought me into the Chicago running scene was a group called Family Style RC.
Okay.
They were very focused on bringing more representation to the sport. And I don't know where it came from, but they got some bibs through the organizers. I think the program's kind of evolved into what is called entries equity now.
Okay.
But before it was essentially just like, hey, we want to promote the sport. We want to bring more diversity into the sport. And that's how I got the bib.
Wow. Crazy. And
Yeah.
then have you run it every year since then? Is that right?
Every year since
Yeah,
then.
wow.
So I ran 4 Chicago's and then I did the Bayshore Marathon as well last year. So 5 in total.
Wow.
But I'm not going to run it this year. I made a very deliberate decision of, hey, I've done it 4 years in a row now. I've gained so much and I've taken in so much from the community. I've made a conscious decision to like, I'm going to set up out there with my run group. We'll set up a cheer zone and I'm going to be on the sidelines cheering. So I can't wait.
Spectating is also so rewarding and so much fun.
Yeah.
You'll love that.
So much fun.
Yeah, I really applaud you, Keegan, for taking a year off, being like, I don't want to do it this year. I'm going to take a break because you can. I
Right.
feel like the
Yeah.
internet makes you feel like, okay, everybody's doing marathons every weekend, all the time. If I'm a runner, I need to be running
Right.
marathons. It's like, actually, no, you don't even have to race if you're a
Yeah.
runner. You just have to run. That's all you have to do. So I applaud you for
Yeah.
taking a break from the marathon.
Yeah, that's the thing. Last year, I was very intentional with like, hey, I'm going to train for 2 marathons. I was going to do a spring and a fall. Prior to that, I've always only just ran 1 marathon a year, the Chicago Marathon. And had some lofty goals, like somehow I had in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm in like, sub 4 marathon shape. Even after running my first marathon, which I finished in full 40, I'm like, I think I can do a sub 4.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, we do.
So I was very intentional last year where I'm like, hey, I'm going to take this marathon training seriously. Worked with my coach and we put 2 solid blocks together, chasing that time. I haven't quite gotten it yet, but I think I'm close. So not quite a sub 4 marathoner yet. But despite that, after that 2 solid blocks, and honestly, my original goal at the start of the year, last year, was really to like survive those 2 blocks and not get injured, right?
Yeah.
And yes, I'd love to hit a time goal. But then when I look back, I'm like, no, I kind of told myself, like, I want to see if I can do 2 marathons in a year. And I did. And so I could have gone into 2026 going like, all right, let's continue to build and chase that goal. But I think I told myself, no, like, let's take a year off. Maybe we'll do some shorter races, some faster races. I'm still going to continue to run and train, but I altered my goal for 26. I was like, I'm not chasing a time goal per se, but I've gained so much just from like running with others and others who are willing to run with me to achieve my goals. And I told myself, like, you know what? Maybe this is the year that I run races with friends. And it doesn't matter how it could be me helping somebody pay somebody to their goals. It could be, hey, somebody wants to run with me and help me like hit my goal, sure. Or in the case of an upcoming race, in the mid-year, I'm going to be running with a friend who we're both kind of chasing a very scary goal and we've kind of committed to like run together. So that's the goal for 26. Just run more races with friends.
I love that so much. I really do. I think it gets so stressful. And I think it can deplete the joy a little bit if you put too much pressure on yourself chasing times only. I'm competitive. I love chasing times and chasing my best, but also being mindful of the fact that not every single race or every year has to be about that.
Has to be.
Yeah. So, yay.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your Chicago Marathon experiences. So
sure, yeah.
So you kind of got into the running club scene. For your first Chicago, I can't remember if you already said this, did you have a coach or you just Googled a plan?
For my first 2 Chicago's, no.
Okay.
very much just self-coach, figuring out myself, and followed whatever plan I found and so forth. And then, so as you can imagine, the first one, I had a ton of fun. I completed it. The second one, I kind of told myself, all right, let's, you've done one now. Let's try to chase for, a time goal. Train myself self-coach that way. And that the second one didn't quite go the way I wanted. I made some nutrition mistakes and started cramping at mile 9.
no.
So it was a bit of a struggle just to get across the line, but I still did, And then come the third marathon was when I started working with a coach, and I've been working with her since then. So that was really my first foray into working with a coach,
Yeah.
And that third Chicago Marathon was actually, went really well, really special as well for me, not just from the training perspective, but also I had 2 friends, Mike, who was part of the Brooks team as well as Matt, who's like a local here, a friend of mine, who both, were willingly and gracious and said they want to run with me and they were going to pace me. And so we had such a blast. The 3 of us ran the whole thing together. Matt was always a little bit up ahead, hyping up the crowd for us. And Mike, had his GoPro, so he was shooting footage.
That's so fun.
And I was just trying to survive,
right.
But it was a core memory. Honestly, a lot of what I mentioned about wanting to run more with others really stemmed from that race. I'm like, okay, they did this for me. I want to kind of do this for others. I want to capture more of that.
Yeah.
So that was 2 years ago. So that was 2024 Chicago Marathon.
Okay. And then how has the weather been on the races for you? I was trying to remember the recent years.
The first 2 was really nice, 40, 45,
perfect.
so kind of perfect weather, so to speak. The third race was decent. It just got a little hot towards the end, but decent weather. I think last year felt really strong till 18 miles, and then I think it got a little hot, and I was just all right, trying to get to the line, The weather in Chicago, it's really hit or miss.
Yes.
There's not much you can do about weather. It's what I've learned. It's just how do you just give your best out there given the conditions?
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Absolutely. It's hard. For nutrition, you mentioned the mistakes that you made. How do you treat nutrition now? What do you use? What's worked for you?
So in terms of gels, I use Humor a lot.
Oh, that's right.
Sometimes I'll use Morton as well. That's also worked well with me. Morton's just so expensive.
It's so expensive, yeah.
I'm so I've been leaning on Humor more. I've tried some other ones that just haven't worked with my gut. So whatever I've found that it works, I just kind of stick to it. I think what I've learned though from that second marathon was really more of the sodium intake.
Yeah.
That was a really hot summer leading up to that race, and every training run, I made sure I had a lot of sodium drinks the night before, or during or before that. And then came race day, the temps dropped down to 40 degrees. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I've been training in hot summer. This is perfect. I'm good. But then realized no, I still needed the sodium.
Yeah, I've had that. Gosh, it was monumental. Maybe a couple years ago when I was running the marathon.
Yeah.
And I cramped mile 1, Keegan. I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
This cannot be the way this race starts. And I literally ran into a friend of mine who had salt stick tablets. She's like, would you like some sodium? And I'm like, yes, please.
Yep.
So she saved my race.
Yeah.
I credit her for a lot of that race going a lot better than it could have had I continued wanting sodium and cramping throughout the race. But yeah, it's so important. What do you use?
Yeah.
Do you use salt stick capsules or chewables?
I've used salt stick chewables quite a bit. I still have quite a bit in stock. Lately, I've been using the Runway salty carbs, which I quite like.
Okay.
So it's it's a powder form, so you mix into a drink. Comes about 30 grams of carbs, and I want to say 500 milligrams of sodium or so.
Nice.
So it works out quite well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a combination of salt stick, Runway salty carbs.
So do you carry a belt with you or a handheld? Do you just do it before?
Yeah, I do a lot of it before. Okay. Last summer was really hot as well, so I trained with a handheld quite a bit. I didn't really like running with it, running a race with it, So normally I would have a flip belt that would have a bottle across the waist.
Gotcha.
That would carry that. I think the last Chicago Marathon that I did start with a handheld, and then I just tossed it when I was done, and mean, I've had that handheld for almost two training cycles. I'm like, okay, it's probably gross now anyways. It's probably time to go.
I've been there.
Sacrifice it to the
Right.
race.
You're like,
Yeah.
this is pretty gross. I don't know how many times I've actually washed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What other races have you done? I know recently you just did the Shamrock Shuffle in Chicago.
Yeah. Shamrock Shuffle. That's a special one too for me too. So a little bit of context: the Shamrock Shuffle is always around mid-March, right, close to St. Patty's Day, and it's kind of the unofficial start of like the racing season for Chicago. Either folks are training through winter, or they'll start with the Shamrock Shuffle and they'll start training for like races and stuff like that. And it draws a big crowd. I think maybe there was about like 30,000 folks running the 8K on Sunday.
Wow.
So it feels a little bit like a mini Chicago Marathon because it's starts around the same area too.
Wow.
What I really liked about it is it's actually for me, it's a 2-day event. They have a mile race on Saturday and then the 8K, which the one that almost everybody does on Sunday. And I started that same year where I started racing and running my first 5K, a few months after that was the Shamrock Shuffle. And I mentioned earlier, like, my kids are like, oh, you get a medal for like doing races. So they wanted to get into it. So we actually did the Shamrock Shuffle mile as a family.
That's so fun.
Unfortunately, my wife was sick that year, so she couldn't do it. So she was on the sidelines, which actually turned out great because I was running it with my older daughter, like close to the front. My younger daughter was a little bit behind. And after she crossed the finish line, my wife was there. And I still recall her telling me, and like, Caitlin had this glow on her face, just this post-run high. And she could tell, like, oh, okay, like, I think there's some running in her future. And my wife used to run. She ran in high school and college and kind of stopped. And then here I come, like, years later. I'm like, oh, I'm picking up running. Just like, what?
Yeah, she's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. But that was special in a way that was kind of like the first race for my daughters and like our first kind of family race. And, so that was the mile. And then I did the 8K. But to me, for that weekend, the mile has always been special because that was the first year. The second year that we did the mile, I started noticing, like, oh, I think I'm getting, in pretty good shape. I'm like, let's just try to race it and see how it goes. And then I had a pretty decent time. I think I finished in like 7:20 or so. And I was like, oh, this was fun. I'm like, maybe the third year I'll actually train for a mile, try to race it and see what happens. And I did. And that was actually the year I won the mile.
So cool.
So cool, especially, for someone who's very middle of the pack, who again never ran in high school or college, so never really had the experience of like leading a race or winning a race. And I also live in Chicago. It's a big city, so it's not like I had age group podiums. Folks in my age group are still way faster than me, right? So that race, I recall, was like I kind of ran it. There's a competitive wave and a recreational wave. So I ran the recreational wave. So there's some kids out front who's always sprinting out. I'm like, okay, cool, let them go. But then before you knew it, like by halfway, I realized I was out front. And I was like, oh, this is an interesting experience. And there was a lead car in front too at the time. I'm like, wow, this is what it feels like, and I was like, all right, let's keep going, stay in there. And then obviously at miles hard by like 75% away, I felt somebody breathing hard next to me. I'm like, oh no. But fortunately, I was able to kick towards the end. And that's the first time ever winning a race, first time breaking tape.
There was tape too. That's the best.
There was tape too. So it was such an experience, And I didn't even know my time was like in range, but it just happened to be like, it was that was the field that I was given, and that was the field that just happened to be there, and I'll cherish that experience.
That's really special. What was your time for the winning time?
6:55, I would say.
Gosh, and this year, spoiler alert, you upped that time.
I did. Yeah, I think I like 33 maybe. Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's terrifying.
So it's fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I've not raced a mile. I don't know if I've ever raced a mile. So it sounds so scary.
Yeah.
Because 5Ks also scare me because if you're racing them, you're running a much faster pace than you are for a half or a marathon. And so we'll see. We have a mile race here that the same organization that puts on the CNO Monumental Marathon puts on a mile race that now has a 5K too. But we do that as a family every year. So ever since
Yeah.
I was part of the team there on the board. We've done it. And so since my girls were little, they've done it, and it's so fun. I mean, it might take us 15 or 20 minutes, but it's cool to just kind of get them in that environment. So that's my excuse for not racing it. Yeah.
I'll give you that 2 more years when they're a little older and a little faster, then you almost have to race it to keep up with them.
Yeah. I mean, for real, that will be a problem for me for sure. My oldest is going to be 9 and she's quick. She will be, I hope she'll be a runner if she wants to be, but we shall see.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I was trying very hard to obviously I'm passionate about it. My wife's passionate about it, but didn't want to, push too much. I'm like, I'm going to expose you to it. And if you want to continue, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Yes. I mean, my younger daughter has really gotten to the point where she's staunchly saying, no, I hate running.
You're like, okay.
But she's a competitive dancer. So she does,
that's right.
That's her, that's her sport, her mindset. Everything else is secondary to her. Even if she plays volleyball at her school, it's okay, cool. Volleyball's great, but I can't get injured because I need to dance.
Yeah. Wow.
But my older daughter, though, she does, she still participates in cross country at school and track at school. I think every once in a while, if I ask her, you want to go for a run, she'll say yes. But if I don't, she'll just be like, that's cool. I don't need to run unless I'm in a cross country season.
Yeah. Are you, did I remember correctly? Yeah. You coach now too for your girls.
I do. Yes.
Or your oldest.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I started about 4 years ago now, right around the same time. I think I started running, and that was the year that the school I think they joined a new sports league. And so cross country was new as well as track, and again, Catholic school, very volunteer based, who raises their hand, So I started coaching with the principal at that time. But as you can imagine, as a principal, you have a lot of responsibility. So she faded back a little bit and ended up coaching the team, and all the kids loved it. They came back their next year for cross country and they joined track in the spring. So I've been coaching ever since, and 4th grade to 8th grade, so you get a whole variety.
Yeah.
4th grade, you gotta wrangle them a little bit. 8th grade, sometimes a little too cool for school.
Yep, I can see that.
But it's been fun, and it's it's a heavy commitment. It tends to be short, right? We usually have only 3 to 4 weeks of practice at most usually, and then bam 3 meets and we're done, right? Same with track as well. So it always feels very compressed. But, at the end of the day, my main goal is to make sure the kids actually like it and don't hate running later.
Right.
And so it's not so much about getting them to state or anything like that. It's more come have fun and cheer each other on. And then we've gotten better too over the years. First year we showed up with bad meets bears. We didn't know how the meets work and stuff like that. But in the last 2 years, we've had a few meets where the boys team have won meets. So they get to see a trophy, hold a trophy. So it's been fun.
That's really fun. Yeah. You also are a running coach too, RRCA certified. Is that the right acronym?
Correct. So I'm actually certified with a different organization called UESCA, United Endurance Sports Coaching Association, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but it's UESCA.
Right.
I got the acronym right. But I became a certified run coach about a year ago. It was something that I've been meaning to do from multiple perspectives. I enjoy the sport. I've had fun coaching the younger kids, so to me, it's just learning and knowledge, right? What can I do to better myself? Yeah. But then at the same time, I also just passionate about coaching. And I was all right, well, maybe this can apply to coaching friends and adults too. Yeah. So I started about a year ago, and I think you mentioned RRCA. The reason I didn't go the RRCA route was when I was doing my research, the RRCA routes, typically you just go in on a weekend and you get it done. And to me, that felt too compressed. I don't know if I would retain that much. So I picked the UESCA one because you go at your own time, you just go through all the modules, you get tested in the modules and things like that. And so that worked better for me. Could have got it done faster, but I don't know if I would have learned as much.
Right. I mean, that is an interesting point to think about. Somebody going in and in a day and a half, they feel I'm ready to coach everybody, and you're like, well, For me personally, I don't know that I would retain enough in that short amount of time either. I didn't know there was another option. I guess that makes sense that there would be more than one organization, but that's really cool.
Yeah, but it's been great. I also, again, it's more of a passion, and I'm not necessarily out here trying to build like a coaching business or anything like that, right? I try to take on no more than like 4 or 5 athletes at a time. So currently, I have 3 athletes that I'm working with who are actually all 3 of them are doing a half marathon soon, a spring half marathon. So it's kind of nice. It just ended up that way that like, the 3 folks that I'm helping with are like working on halves, and then I mean I could probably take 1 or 2 more, but again, I don't really want to do more than 5 just because I want to make sure that I'm giving equal time and commitment to whoever I'm working with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you have a full-time job, so
I do.
Right, you're a
full-time job, family, and I'm training. I'm running myself too. So see, I want to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so much. That's incredible that you do all that. Yeah, the dance dad. I'm sure that becomes difficult. Do you travel for that, for your daughter's dance?
Yeah, we do. Fortunately, right now, most of her competitions are regional.
Okay.
So the furthest we've gone is across state lines is to Milwaukee, which is about a 2-hour drive. Some of the other competitions, they may say Chicago, but they may be out the burbs, or maybe an hour drive or so. So they're all within like an hour to 2 drive maximum so far. I think this is her 4th season now, but as she continues to like progress into higher level teams, maybe we may have more travel in the future,
Yeah. You also have, is this right? Did I find that you used to do fencing?
I did, yes.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
I want to hear about how you end up doing that.
Sure. So a little bit of back history. I grew up in Malaysia, and then I spent about a year in Hong Kong just before college because my parents moved there. And from there, I was applying to schools in the US. So got into a school in Boston. That's where I went to college. And the reason I bring that up is that, again, a little bit of naivety and like delusions. I have always grew up watching movies about American colleges, TV shows about American colleges. I'm like, oh, it would be really fun to join like a college team. Maybe I could join a football team. Never played football in my life, never thrown a football, like, it's soccer back home, right? But again, a little delusion, naivety. I'm like, oh, let's go to tryouts. We'll see what happens. I slept in, missed the tryouts for all the other sports as well. But the fencing tryouts was in the evening that same day. So I'm like, okay, let me show up and let's see what this is about, right? And so that's how I got onto the team, and that was my foray into fencing. And obviously, we started from scratch. And so we were a Title IX school. So the girls team was varsity, the men's team was club, but both coaches know each other well. So we kind of trained together, But yeah, just, the first year or 2 was mostly sitting on the bench, but just like learning. But then, and then I ended up being captain in the 3rd year, fence. And I actually studied abroad in Scotland in my junior year too for half a semester. Yeah. I actually became a better fencer in Scotland because it was a pass-fail study abroad. So I'm like, okay, I just need to show up to classes. But ended up joining a fencing club there, and I got coached there.
Cool.
And that was my fencing journey. I fenced in college for 4 years. After college, no longer on a team. Fencing is a little bit like running in a way. Like in a team, the way that it works is like, let's say you have one school fencing the other. You kind of have 3 fencers go against the other fencers, and then you get hit 5 times, then you're out. Your next fencer comes in. It's a little bit like a relay race to 15 points, So it's like a very much a team collegiate event. And then you come out of college and all of a sudden you don't have a team anymore, but there are all these fencing tournaments, but now you're like, you're fencing as an individual. And there's like rankings as well. You gain points, you move up in rankings. So it's very much like running in a way where like, yes, I imagine if you were on a college team, you're like, running for points, right? Like top 5 in cross country scores, right? And then you come out of college and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm running for my own PRs and like what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So there's some parallels there, but I fenced on my own for about, I wouldn't say off and on for about like 6 to 8 years after college.
That's so wild.
And then, and then I don't know what happened. I just kind of stopped. I still have all my gear. So once in a while I'll show up, but yeah, I've not made it a priority yet,
But that's such an interesting sport. And how did you show up to the tryouts? Did you have no gear? You put on gear and
No
just,
gear.
they tell you what
What?
to do? I mean,
Yeah, no gear. You just show up, did some running, like baseline to baseline, all that kind of stuff,
okay.
just to measure raw fitness. Then they gear you up and they put you and they give you a couple of pointers. And if you're interested, then you come back and practice the next day. And then you slowly start to get better and better at it. But yeah, the school took care of all the gear. I didn't buy my own stuff till like maybe junior college when I was like, oh, actually, no, I don't think I bought my own stuff till like after college. I think even when I went to Scotland, I brought some of the club school gear with me over there, you know.
That's so cool. What a cool thing. I mean, I've never tried it. I don't know if I've ever actually watched it. Maybe a little bit when
Yeah.
it's in the Olympics, but yeah, that's really interesting. And especially to play collegiately. I wanted to talk a little bit more about your international upbringing. Did you say how old you
Oh,
were
sure.
when you moved from Malaysia to Hong Kong?
Yeah, I was 16,
Okay.
17 or so when I moved to Hong Kong. So I grew up in Malaysia. My grandparents were originally from China on both sides.
Okay.
So we're Chinese by descent, but Malaysian Chinese, right? When we were nationality wise in Malaysia. So I grew up in Malaysia. And then right around 16, my dad got a job in Hong Kong. So the family moved. But at that point in the Malaysian school system, I had one more year of school left for like so-called high school slash secondary school. And I said, hey, let me just finish this year out. I just didn't want to move like
Great.
final year, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up staying in our house with my grandparents for a year. And then once I finished out school in Malaysia, I went to Hong Kong to join the family and did school there for like a year or two under a different system. And then it was an international school because they were expatriates when we were there. That was when I got exposed to like some really smart kids, and they were all applying to like fancy colleges in the US and the UK, and maybe again some delusion and naivety. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do the same.
Yeah.
And that's how I made my way to the US. I came here for college as a freshman.
Yeah. So for people like myself who have never been to Malaysia and don't know what it's
Mhm.
like there, what was it like growing up in Malaysia? Like paint a picture of, I mean, I don't even know the typography or the cities, or tell people what that's like.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to briefly interrupt this amazing episode to tell you about another podcast that might be right up your alley. I'm Whitney Hines, and I host the Mother Runners, a podcast for moms who run, which features in-depth and fun interviews with mother runners. I wanted to create this show to share each other's stories so we can lift each other up, but also learn, grow, and be inspired. My hope is that it will motivate and entertain you while on the run, in the car line, or folding the laundry. Now let's get back to the episode.
What was it like growing up in Malaysia? Like paint a picture of, I mean, I don't even know the typography or the cities, or tell people what that's like.
Yeah, so I grew up in Kuala Lumpur. It's the capital city of Malaysia, just outside of it. And Malaysia itself, it's on the equator, so weather-wise, hot and humid, almost too hot, too humid.
Yeah.
But growing up in Malaysia, though, it's because I lived in a city, and I kind of always see myself as like a city slicker. Like I've always lived in big cities.
Yeah.
So it's not that different from maybe living in like a New York City, but just a slightly different environment. I think what Malaysia is really known for, or what we pride ourselves, is there's really good food in Malaysia, and everybody in Malaysia, like, it's like that food like kind of brings us together, and like, a lot of community like rolls around like food and getting together for food. But it doesn't have to be fancy either. Some of the best foods in Malaysia is what you get on the streets, or like restaurants that are like open air that are like just right next to the streets, right? We're not talking like 5-star Michelin or anything like that, but good food quality. So that's what I miss most about Malaysia.
Yeah, I bet. What types of food, like on the street, for an example, like what would you buy?
A lot of noodles, a lot of rice as well. So Malaysia itself is made up of three main like ethnic groups. The Malays, who were there originally, right around the Silk Trade. So there were a lot of Indian traders that moved to Malaysia, Chinese from China who moved to Malaysia. So you kind of almost get this blend of like Chinese food with a curry element that comes from either the Malay cuisine or the Indian cuisine. So a lot of rice, a lot of noodles. vegetables. So very carb heavy. But yeah, so think of it as like a blend of like almost like an Indian and Chinese food kind of combined. It's probably the best way to put it for somebody who like hasn't been in Malaysia, you know?
Yeah, it sounds so good. Is fruit, I imagine on the
Yeah.
equator, like a lot of fruit there?
Yeah. So oftentimes, like, when you think of dessert here, you're thinking like, a pie or like something cold like ice cream and so, right? But for us in Malaysia, dessert is usually fruit.
Yeah, I bet it's
You know,
so good.
whether it's mangoes,
Ah,
papayas, or whatever
yes.
local fruits out there, like rambutan.
Yum. Yes, that's making me so hungry. So then you moved to Hong
So.
Kong. Are your parents still living? Are they in Hong Kong?
They're not anymore. After they retired, they moved back to Malaysia. So they're back in
Okay.
Malaysia right now.
Okay.
And they usually try to come every 2 years or so. And when they come, they stay for a few months, so they can spend time with my girls.
Yeah.
They don't care about us anymore. It's all about the grandkids, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're back in Malaysia. I have a brother and a sister. My brother, though, was living with me in Chicago for a little bit after college, and then he got a job in Asia, and he's now like settled in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So he's still in Hong Kong. Then my younger sister was working in Boston for a little bit. She actually went to the same college I did, and then she ended up working in the admissions office for a few years after college.
Wow. Yeah.
Then she worked in Boston for a bit. Then she got a job in Taiwan, and most recently she got a job in Barcelona. So she's out in Spain. So I
Okay.
haven't gone out to see her yet, but I gotta find an excuse to like go out to Barcelona.
Yeah, it's like Google's, when is
So
the Barcelona Marathon?
yeah,
Yeah.
it just passed actually because she was messaging me. I'm like, hey, are you coming next year? I'm like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be a good excuse. Or maybe like a
Yeah,
half marathon or whatever. Yeah, that would be really
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
Wow. Wow. Your family
yeah.
is
So
everywhere. My
all over
goodness.
the place,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's pros and cons to it. Obviously, it'd be great to have folks that are close by, but we connect a lot on group chats and things like that.
Hmm. And what language do you speak in Malaysia?
So I went to school learning Malay, which is like
Okay.
the national language there. It sounds a lot like Indonesian. And then in a way, like English was second language, right? I only had an hour of English class a week. Everything was in Malay. I learned math in Malay, chemistry in Malay, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And then from my Chinese descent, we speak Cantonese at home.
Okay.
So I can't read or write Chinese too well, but verbally I speak Cantonese. I used to be able to read and write Malay really well, but I just haven't used it in a
Right.
while. I
Yeah.
could probably still talk and read,
Yeah.
and then of course English. So
Have you taken your girls to Malaysia?
yeah, they've been a couple
Oh, so
times.
cool.
I think we were there last summer when my sister got married as well. So that was a big trip. We'll try to make another trip like either tail end of this year or next summer.
That's really cool. So where did you meet
Yeah.
your wife? Where did she come in?
We met in Chicago actually after we were it was late 20s for me, and I think she was 30 that year. I was 27, she was 30, and we actually met at a pub crawl in like Wrigleyville,
Oh,
just this
so
big
romantic.
like party bar scene outside of the Cub Stadium,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's how we met. And then we started talking, and we actually didn't go on our first date for like 3 or 4 weeks after that. Just things came up. She had to fly back to Malaysia too for a short period of time, but we kept in touch, and then we went on our first date, and I was like, oh, okay. I think then we knew, like we knew there was something there. So again, we didn't go on our first date till maybe 4 or 5 weeks after we first met, but we were already chatting and talking, and so there's always a little bit of like on both sides, like, okay, is this how is this gonna go, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the date went well. It was a really long date. It just kept going, and then I think we kind of knew, like, okay, there's something here.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yep.
I want to talk more about Chicago and the running scene in particular.
Yes.
Because there's a huge running scene there, obviously.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
there's so many clubs. And you've mentioned one of them, the Family Style. And then you helped start another club that we talked about before we hit record. So could you just kind of give us a lay of the land in terms of your Chicago running community experience?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was probably started running on my own for the first 6, 7 months before even being exposed to the running community, and then I ended up, or I should say, Family Style found me and started like running with them more, running through their events, and met a lot of friends through there. And they were also really good about like kind of sharing like what other clubs are doing and when,
It's nice.
and it started branching out and going, just visiting other clubs and really just getting to know the community. And everybody's so welcoming and it just kind of brings you in. Yes, every club maybe have a little different focus, right? One other club that I run with quite a bit, especially during summer, they meet every Fridays at 6:40 a.m. and they always meet at a different coffee shop in the west town of Chicago. And it's always like 3 miles around 10:30 pace. So, but the whole point is like, just kind of start off a Friday and then you have some coffee and then start your day, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that every club has their kind of own thing. And for me, what ended up happening was two other friends. We were realizing that okay, we want to get better, we want to get PRs, but again, none of us had like a track background. But we're like, okay, well, let's we still want to do track workouts. We see them on plans and so forth. So we started meeting on Tuesdays at 5:45 around that time, and partly because I want to make sure we get done before I had to go home and get the kids ready to school, et cetera,
Yep.
right? So that was about 2 years ago. We just started meeting at a track, and then that just kind of grew. More friends showed up, and so we've kind of then just formalized it like last year where we said, okay, let's actually, make our own run club, right? And
Yeah.
very much like focus on like our Tuesday track sessions. And what we do is we always get together, we run 2 laps as a warm up as a group. That's usually our like chit chat and like, kind of catch up time. And then we all gather together either at the side of the track or the field, and we'll do like some run drills together, some dynamic stretching, some A skips, some B skips. Like, when we first started, we didn't really know what we were doing, but part of us is like, well, something is better than
Yeah.
nothing. I think if we were just on our own, we would never do any
I know. I
dynamic
was just
drills.
thinking that. I was like, I
never,
need that in my life.
never
Somebody.
do any sort of skips. And
Yeah.
but so as a group, we'll warm up together, then we'll do like some run drills, and then we'll do some strides, and then we'll like do whatever workout each has. We used to do the same workouts, but then as like folks are on different parts of their training schedule and plans, we sort of just broke out into like, all right, we'll just do whatever workouts like folks have, and sometimes sort of like, oh, maybe I'll join somebody else's workout and so forth, right?
Yep.
But the whole point is we start together, we're there together as a group, and then we usually end around the same time. Then we'll like hang out a little bit, take a photo, and then we'll start our day,
Yep.
So that's where like the Tuesday group how it started. It's myself, my friend Kim, my friend Conrad, we all co-founded it. And yeah, the first year we were, been going strong, very consistently showing up on Tuesdays. When it gets cold or like the track gets covered with
Right.
snow, we'll punt or we'll skip,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't take ourselves too seriously. If we miss a day, we miss a day. Or if we have a big race like Shamrock Shuffle, for example, we won't meet on the track the next Tuesday. We'll go to one of our favorite like coffee and empanada place, and we'll hang out there on
There you
Tuesday
go.
instead, right?
Yeah.
So we don't take ourselves too seriously. I think the way we look at it is like, we're all adults. Most of us don't have like a track or a cross country background, but it's a chance to really just like put the message out there that like speed work is for everyone. Like, yes, the track may be scary if you've never done it before, but if you create a welcoming environment, then we're open to questions, right? Like when I first started, I didn't even know like the track was 400 meters. I had to look that up, right? And then I was like, what is 400 meters in miles,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so it really started off with our Tuesday meetups in the morning, and then occasionally as the season goes on, we'll usually meet up on Saturdays for long runs too. But kind of again, a little more ad hoc. Also recognizing everybody have different plans and different mileage, but
Yep.
if nothing else, we start together, right?
Yep.
And then if timing works out well, we'll meet up at a coffee shop after.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did track for one season in high school, so it barely counts.
Yeah.
And then when I finally started working with a running coach, there would be workouts
That's
where
right, Coach Rachel.
there would be workouts
Yeah.
that made sense clubs to do on a track. And so I've told
Right.
this story recently. I've gotten kicked off of my daughter's school track multiple times because I don't go at 5:45. I like try to go in the morning, and
Yeah.
they're like, no, you can't be here while school's in session. I'm like, but I'm a mom. Like, what,
Right.
why do
But
you
you're
care?
mom. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
get it. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really
Yeah.
fun to have that team-like environment, especially on the
Yeah.
track, which can be scary and intimidating for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fun part of it too is, again, everybody may have different workouts because you're on a track. You still see everybody else, right?
Right.
If they pass you pass them. You're like cheering each other on,
Yes.
right? They could be in a work interval while you're in a recovery jog, or vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So that's been fun, Whereas like I feel like if you're doing speed work on the road, it's kind of like maybe you start together, but you may not see each other
Exactly.
till like the end or
Right.
something.
Right. Yes. Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Are you, I mean, again,
Yeah.
because there's so many clubs in Chicago, are you part of any other clubs too? Like where you do your long runs with a different club, or how's that work?
I try my best to jump around, and like whenever timing permits, obviously Tuesday is a club that I try to do my Saturday long runs with, as well as my Tuesday track works. But depending on the other days, if timing permits, I'll try to join other clubs that are close by. And I think that's the other thing about the Chicago running community is I've always found like I can always just pop in even if I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And everybody has either like a Strava event page or like an Instagram page, and sometimes I'll go and just ask like, hey, like how many miles are you guys doing? Roughly what pace, so
Yeah.
I know what I'm getting myself into, right? And that's the thing. I think like it's for folks who are like intimidated about like joining run clubs, I always tell folks it's always okay to like reach out and ask.
Yes.
And make sure you actually do ask, because everybody's going to tell you all are welcome, please come, right? But you also want to make sure you understand like what you're getting yourself into.
Yes.
Are they doing 5 miles, Are they doing 3? What are their pace ranges? And it's okay to like find a club that, okay, like they may be a little too fast for me, and that's okay,
Yes.
But if you don't ask, then I think sometimes you get into a position where like you may not feel welcome, even though that's not the intent.
Yes, right. Absolutely. I know. I think about that a lot. As I have a group of women, including Coach Rachel, that I run with. Usually Friday mornings we get together, and it's usually whatever Rachel's scheduled for me, I'll do usually, and then ask them if they want to join me in that. And we've had other people join us occasionally, and it is like making sure you set the expectations so you don't want anybody to feel left out, or like they aren't welcome, because truly anybody's welcome. And it's just we happen to run at a weird time for people who have quote unquote normal jobs, right? We just most people can't run at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning. So, but that's been really fun.
Yeah. And I think that just to, close out about run clubs in Chicago, I also think the investment that you put in, like just meeting friends and meeting others and joining as many clubs as you can, like for me, I found that it pays dividends, right? In the sense of like, I'm running the Chicago Marathon and I'm seeing like run clubs with their cheer zones. I recognize them. They recognize me, like your folks are cheering for each other. So it really makes you feel like you're part of something, So yeah, to the extent my schedule allows, I try to join different groups if I can.
Yeah, I've had a couple people on this podcast from Chicago. One, I can't remember what club he's part of. The other one is 3 Run 2. My friend Betsy is part of 3 Run 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I've seen that club. I've had the opportunity to run on the Lakeshore quite a bit because I've been to Chicago quite a bit. The Lakeshore path is just so special. Where do you typically do your long runs? I don't know exactly what part of the city you're in.
Yeah, I'm in an area called Logan Square.
Okay.
Actually like 2 blocks away from where 3 Run 2 does their Thursday night runs.
Okay.
So sometimes I join them.
Nice.
If my daughters don't have any activities, Yeah. I've also had one time where they had an hour and a half volleyball practice, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll like run a 3 Run 2 while they're at practice.
There you go.
So very blessed in Chicago. There are a lot of running paths. I live really next to an area called the 606, which used to be an old elevated train track.
Cool.
That they converted into a park. So it's one long stretch of 2.7 miles elevated that you can just run. There's a bike path and a run path, right? So sometimes that's easy for me. I just hop hop on. It's like half a mile from there. And I've also done long runs on there back and forth.
Yeah, I was
at
gonna say that'd be
2.7
kind of hard,
because
but
sometimes it's easy,
yeah,
kind of hard, but sometimes for the convenience,
sure.
and timing
Yeah,
wise.
put your water where you want it and put your fuel where you want it and come back.
Yeah, exactly. And come back. And then there's also a couple of public tracks in Chicago that, that's part of the city property that you can just show up during the day
That's
too and
nice.
not worry about getting kicked
Yeah,
out.
I need that.
So that's nice. And then obviously the lakefront. Usually on Saturdays, I'll make a trek out to the
Okay.
lakefront just because it's a habit, just because that's where we meet. And also like so many folks running out there. You just see so
Yes.
many friends while you're running.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The most recent time
yeah.
I was out there were multiple tents for run clubs and there was some sort
Oh
of
yes,
race,
that's right.
like 5K happening at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
just, there's always something happening
Yeah.
and it's really fun
Yeah.
to be able to see so many people.
Speaking of tents, there is CARA, which is Chicago
That's the one.
Areas Runners Association.
Yes.
All through winter and summer, they set up like hydration stations for the running community.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not just for CARA members, anybody running, every 2 miles or so, there's like a tent with water and like Gatorade. So it kind of spoiled in a way, like
So
running the
nice.
lakefront, like don't have to carry water.
Right.
There's city fountains and then there's the CARA tents.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
very spoiled.
Yeah. That's I do remember seeing a CARA tent in
Yeah.
particular. Yeah. It's really cool. Okay. The other topic I wanted to cover with you, Keegan, is content creation. So we talked a little bit about it kind of with Brooks,
yeah.
but
Sure.
I just love it. I love watching your content. It's always so
Oh,
lighthearted,
thank you.
fun, but also inspiring.
Thank
And
you.
so I'm just curious about how you approach that and also how you've come to work with brands like Shocks and others. Yeah, I just think it's so interesting.
Honestly, I'm still learning, still trying to get better at it. I think when I first started, spending more time on Instagram, like I was mostly just posting about my own training journey. And then when I started joining more run clubs, I think I created more content around like my experience joining run clubs and being there and like part of the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how I started. And I have to credit Brooks for like giving me the opportunity because I would say like, again, I went into it not knowing what I was doing or what I was going to do, but just being surrounded by like other creative folks who are also doing stuff, it helps you hone your craft, right?
Yes.
And folks are always willing to like collaborate and on like, whether it's silly reels or serious reels, right? So that's really how it started. And I still think that's like the ethos of what I do today. If I feel inspired, I like want to make something that's fun or lighthearted or just like put some humor out there, I will, right? And I again don't take myself too seriously. And it goes ebbs and flows. There are times where I'm like I feel just creatively tapped.
Yeah.
But I won't make as many videos. Probably might still post about just my training journey, etc. Right? But I also see it as an outlet. So if I creatively tap and I can't get to it, then I feel like okay, like I got to make some adjustments elsewhere. Otherwise, like I'm missing that outlet. So that's the way I approach like my content creation. And then been fortunate as again I did not start this out with a plan of being some major influencer and things like that, right? But then as I started making more content, every so often like some brands will reach out and like in exchange for like product. And initially I'd be like, okay, I'll do it. But then I've gotten a little more picky about okay, well if I only really want to do it if I'm like passionate about the product or something I'm willing to try, right? And so really when I first started I was like okay, I'm just spent most of my time with just Brooks, right? But now that has ended, I kind of opened myself up. Every time I see an opportunity to apply for an ambassador, I'll take a look and I'll apply. So that's how I got the Shocks one too. Just really just applied to it. And some programs are more like higher touch, some are lower touch, right? Shocks doesn't ask too much, and they also do a good job in like, as they have bibs, they do share with their like ambassadors.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is how I got into the Cherry Blossom 10 miler in 2 weeks. But I think that's the way I approach it. I try not to take on too much too. I just don't want to I just don't want to create for the sake of creating. Yeah. But really it's a creative outlet.
Yeah, it's so fun. One of the videos we did together did really well. The one when it was like running backwards to run forward. It was really funny.
That was so funny. Yeah. That was so funny.
I love doing that. In fact, it's nice to have other people who do it, who get it, who like to collaborate.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
been wanting to get more people here locally to, when we meet up, do stuff, because it can be lonely when you're just creating stuff by yourself. I really love creating with others. I think is where I find the most joy, but yeah, it's so fun.
I think that's where I just that like-minded individual thing, right? Like whenever I go for like a travel race and like there are like Brooke's friends there, it's almost like, oh yeah, they get it, we get it, like let's do something
Right.
together, you know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I sometimes have to like coerce some of my friends. Like, okay, I just need you for like 10 seconds.
I know my Friday morning women, they are such good sports because none of them really like want to be in front of the camera necessarily, and they'll just humor me. I'll be like, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to just jump, jump in the air.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, how high, Allie? How high do you want us to jump?
How high?
Yeah, it's fun.
Great friends.
Great friends. We all need them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
DC, I actually, speaking of BRC, Lena was out in DC for the rock and roll half marathon that I just did.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I didn't get to see her, sadly, but it was another one of those where, you know, she used to live in Indianapolis. She got on my radar because of you guys, because of Brooks Running Collective, really.
Right. Yeah.
And
I
then,
thought you guys had met during her indie days.
I know, not that I remember. So so it's kind of cool just how the internet brings so many people together. But yeah, DC, you get to go run and see all the cherry blossoms. It looks, so much fun.
Oh, I'm so excited. It fits in nicely with just the training cycle for the Indy Mini, which I guess at this point 4 weeks ish, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm doing yet. I haven't decided if I'm like just gonna run it for fun and just get the miles, or do a workout in the middle, or secretly trying to see if I can recruit somebody to run with me, you know, second. Yeah. So that would be ideal. But I haven't I've got some friends in the DC area, again, through the running community.
That's nice.
Spark Worldwide, they're based in Virginia.
Okay.
And they've come to Chicago a couple times and we've hung out, but I haven't been to their home turf yet. So I'm looking forward to going out there, seeing them, you know, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a nice little running weekend.
It will be. So I don't know anything about the course. Have you looked at the course or have studied that? No. Yeah.
Have not. No.
Yeah, I wonder. It's got to be by obviously the National Mall where you see all the pictures of the cherry blossoms. But I wonder what that looks like compared to, you know, now I've done Rock and Roll DC and I've done Marine Corps. And so now I'm like, okay, all these DC races are pretty amazing, really, where you get to run.
That's why I assumed you had done it already, because I knew you've done those too, you know.
No, that's the last one.
All I know is it starts. Yeah, all I know is it starts by the Washington Monument, but I don't know too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I can't wait to see the pictures and videos from that race and hear about that experience.
Yeah.
That's going to be really fun. We actually, in Indianapolis that weekend, have our 10-miler for the mini marathon training series that we have here. So it is funny how well that works into your training schedule.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's 10 miles instead of a half marathon is perfect.
Well, we'll both be running 10 milers in spirit.
We will. Mine will be a little less picturesque, but really, you know, Indy, we've got a couple cherry blossom trees around downtown by our canal. So maybe we'll run over there. I have no idea where we run. So yeah.
Well, don't sell Indy short.
I know. I was trying not. All of a sudden, I caught myself, and I'm like, you know, I shouldn't say that because our city is amazing, and I really do love running here and love the race scene that we have here. So I'm gonna ask you the end of the podcast questions because I do want to talk about the Indy Mini as part of your next finish line. So, and I only have 2 questions. The first is, what is your favorite running mantra and or song?
I don't know about mantras. I think I cycled through a bunch of them. Lately, I've been half marathon training, running a lot of thresholds. I've been telling myself to get comfy with the uncomfy. You know, that's the mantra I've been using a lot in my workouts. In terms of favorite song, I've been listening to a lot of Lord lately, and Supercut in particular, like really gets me going, gets me into a nice like steady pace.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
And then next finish line or milestone. Now we kind of already talked about the finish lines that are coming up.
Yeah. So Indy Mini is my A race for the year. I have not told anybody my goals. I've not put it out there, but chasing some scary goals. The history behind it is, as I mentioned, my goal is trying to run a bit more fence this year. My friend Caroline and I, also former Brooks ambassador, actually we're both Shots ambassadors now. We've been talking about wanting to run a race together for a while now, for several years. And knowing last year I was pretty tied up with marathon training and she had her own goals. This year we're like, okay, let's find a half marathon, and we picked a couple, bounced around a couple in Chicago as well. She was willing to travel. She's based in Dallas. And then Indy Mini came up, and I was like, what about this one? We'll make mini travel for both of us, right? And so we won, but she was trying to chase a 140, 142.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about 10 minutes faster than my half PR. And so I'm like, okay. And she's like, and I believe you can do it too. So I'm like, all right, let me go talk to my coach, Aubrey, and let's start training.
Yeah.
So we'll see. My goal is to do my best to keep up with her. But yeah, the plan is get myself in a really good shape and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And have fun, obviously, and first and foremost. And so looking forward to it. I think we've been in races together, but this will be our first race, I think, where we plan to like run together.
It'll be fun. Well, I'm running with Ainsley's Angels, so I'll be pushing.
That's right. Yeah.
And so one of my favorite parts about doing that is that we start the race and then everybody else comes behind us, right? And so if you're running faster, usually faster pace than like a little bit under 2 hours, then you'll pass us, which is so fun to be able to cheer on all my friends that run by me. Yes. So hopefully that means I'll get to see you as you fly by.
I will be looking out for you on course for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll see you the night before too.
I know. That's okay. Perfect. Because you're staying at the Bottle Works Hotel, which is where Lindsay Hine and I
am,
host our events. And we're doing an event the Friday before. It's mid-afternoon now. We had to adjust based on some of our pro athletes' schedules, but we have Emma Grace Hurley joining us.
Who just won Shamrock? Yeah, she just won Shamrock Shuffle too.
Exactly. So what a perfect tie-in there. So so she is just wonderful. I'm really excited for that and to see you in person again. It'll be great.
Yeah. Both Caroline and I had both got tickets, so we'll both be there.
Oh, perfect. Yay. Yeah. Oh, well, I can't wait. It's almost here, which is crazy. It's like just a little over a month away.
Oh, that is crazy.
Or no, March.
I'm not ready.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it is a little over a month. I'm like, wait, what's today? It'll be great.
I'm not ready, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be praying for good weather just in general for everybody, but especially for people who are chasing big goals, because it'll be good to have a great day. So. Well, thank you, Keegan, so much for doing this with me. It's so fun to get to know you better.
No, absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Like, great chat, great conversation.
Absolutely. And thanks to everybody who listened, and happy running. If you enjoyed this episode of Finish Lines and Milestones from Sandy Boy Productions, head to the show notes and go sign up for Finish Lines and Milestones weekly newsletter written by me. I try to make it not suck. That would be the best way to support me in the show. If you already do that, you know the drill. Share, rate, review, whatever else you can do to spread the word would be much appreciated. Wanted to note that Whitney Hines, who is the host of the Mother Runners podcast, who you heard about in the middle of this episode, will be running the Carmel Marathon. So check out her podcast, get to know her so that we can cheer her on when she is here locally in Carmel. Get your tickets to the Indy Mini event. And I also wanted to let you know that Catching Up with Coach for April's edition will be recorded next week. We had some scheduling issues given spring break and everything else happening. So that episode will come out next Wednesday, April 15th, with myself and my coach, Rachel Sinders, if you want to hear a little bit about my personal running journey. All right, talk to you again next week. Bye.